You're black.
Alrighty then. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. Our study follows a 96-week cycle that begins on the title page and continues through page 164. We also studied the spiritual experience in Appendix 2 3 times when the asterisk refers us there. We also studied Dr. Bob's Nightmare, the 12 Traditions, and we close our study on week 96 by studying the spiritual experience again as a standalone meeting. Our meeting began on January 7th, 2020, using this format, and we are grateful that you are here to study with us. My name is Jamie, and I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic.
And my name is Trish, and I am a recovered alcoholic.
Before we begin, please be aware that the first 90 minutes of this meeting will be recorded in audio only for our website and podcast and YouTube channel. If you miss the study portion, you can listen to it online. Study pages will also be listed in chat. Be sure to check out the information posted in the chat throughout the meeting for our other meeting times. Are there any announcements? Yeah, I got a couple. One of the things is for all home group members, check your emails, folks, because Trish sent out a message the other day regarding something that we would like to do, and we'd like to have the answer by Saturday if possible, please. There have been several people that have already answered, but it's kind of an important issue. And let's see, what else have we got going on? We are part of District 40. This group belongs to District 40 in Tennessee, and District 40, along with 4 other districts, are going to be the host committee for third quarter assembly to be held in July 10th through the 12th. So who knows, some of you who come to Pppbbsg might be able to go to assembly if you stick around. And that's kind of what that email is regarding, by the way. And for those who are here local enough, unless you just want to travel, next month on the 20th we will be having our District 40 picnic as well here in Lewisburg, and it'll be held at the Lewisburg Rec Center, and that's always a lot of fun. So that being said, you got anything, Trish?
I do not.
Okay, tonight's recap will begin on, let me look it up again, on page 67, starting with notice the word fear, and end on page 68 with commence to outgrow fear. And Donald will be doing our recap, and then Jacqueline will be doing our study portion, and it will begin on page 68 with now about sex, and end on page 69 if we want it.
Please take a moment to settle in and get comfortable. We take our big book study seriously, and we want everyone to feel present and connected as we begin. In a moment, we'll take a 3-minute meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer. As we move into the study, please help us maintain a peaceful environment. Please be mindful of background noise when you are unmuted. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it on Zoom. Also, please stay muted during other people's shares, and we will call on hands in the order that they are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group. For the meditation, focus on breath and posture, breathe in God and breathe out self. Take this time to reconnect with God and release a day. And let's invite those cute little monks in to do what the monks do so well as soon as I can find them here. There they are. They were hiding in all of the nooks and crannies on my computer. Okay, enjoy your time with God, folks. We'll see you on the other side. And welcome back, and hopefully you can see on your screen in front of you our family's Foglight Prayer. For those of you who wish, please join me in it. Foglight Prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a foglight, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
And let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Steph.
Hi, my name is Stephanie, and I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. I've asked Nikki to read the recovered statement to explain why many in this group identify as recovered. Take it away, Nikki.
You're muted, Nikki.
Okay, recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of alcoholic centers in the mind rather than the body, page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Nikki. We meet every Tuesday night at 5:30 p.m. Central Time for fellowship before the meeting. Our Big Book study begins promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. During the study, chat will be disabled. From the forward to the second edition, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapsed, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Could we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
don't think we have any newcomers tonight.
And the recovered alcoholics, these are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week? Nobody? Linda? No? Donald? Are you celebrating a milestone this week, Donald?
Oh no, it was last weekend that I was supposed to do that. But I celebrated 4,200 in Gandalf years. 4,200 days.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. If you need a big book, we can send you a large print copy. Please let one of the co-hosts know by chat after the meeting. Please practice the 7th tradition using the links in the chat and on the screen. We encourage you to get a big book and work with an untreated alcoholic to take them through the program of recovery. Thank you, and see you next week, Lord willing.
Thank you, Steph. From There Is a Solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and on which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism. This is an open meeting and everyone is welcome. You're not required to identify yourself if you don't want to. Your anonymity will always be protected, and we ask that you protect ours also. Our group is for those who want to recover from alcoholism and have the desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Last week we reviewed Tradition 3, and tonight we will review Tradition 4, found on page 562 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, welcome, Linda. Come on in. You're muted, Linda.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic. We are on Tradition 4. I'm going to follow the format of doing the tradition. I have it right here in front of me. It says read the long form, read the full long version of the tradition, and read the short form. Do you want me to read the full version of it?
Yes,
like
please.
No, but I'm saying it's a tradition. You want me to read the whole tradition?
Are you, yes, out of the Big Book, not the 12 and 12.
Thank you. Okay. The long form of the version of the tradition is Tradition 4. Each group should be autonomous except in manners affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Every group manages its affairs as it pleases, except when AA as a whole is threatened. And such liberty dangerous? The group, like the individual, must eventually conform to principles that guarantee survival. Two storm signals a group ought not do anything which would injure AA as a whole or affiliate itself with outside interests. As an example, the AA create the AA Center that didn't work. Okay, hold on for a minute. Tradition 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. So I will read the whole tradition. I'll read the whole, okay. Autonomy, because I'm trying to follow the format, the correct format. Autonomy is a $10 word, but in relation to us, it means very simply that every AA group can manage its affairs exactly as it pleases, except when AA as a whole is threatened. And it comes now, the same question raised in Tradition 1. Isn't such liberty foolishly dangerous? Over the years, every conceivable deviation from our 12 steps and traditions has been tried. That was sure to be, since we are so largely a band of ego-driven individualists, children of chaos. We have defiantly played with every brand of fire only to emerge unharmed, and we think wiser. These very deviations created a vast process of trial and error which under the grace of God has brought us to where we stand today. When AA traditions were first published in 1946, we have become sure that AA group could stand almost any amount of battering. We saw that the AA group, exactly like the individual, must eventually conform to whatever tested principles would guarantee survival. We had discovered that there was perfect safety in the process of trial and error. So confident of this had we become that the original statement of AA tradition carried this significant sentence: any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group, provided that as a group they have no other affiliation. This meant, of course, that we have been given the courage to declare each AA group an individual entity strictly reliant on its own conscience as a guide to action. In charting this enormous expanse of freedom, we found it necessary to post only 2 storm signals. A group ought not do anything which would greatly injure AA as a whole, nor ought it affiliate itself with anything or anybody else. There would be real danger should we commence to call some groups wet, others dry, still others Republican or Communist, and yet others Catholic or Protestant, and the AA group would have to stick to its course or be hopelessly lost. Sobriety had to be its sole objective. In all other respects, there was perfect freedom of will and action. Every group had the right to be wrong. When AA was still young, lots of eager groups were forming. In a town we call Middleton, a real crackerjack had started up, and townspeople were as hot as firecrackers about it. Stargazing, the elders dreamed of innovations. They figured the town needed a great big alcoholic center, a kind of a pilot plant AA groups could duplicate everywhere. Beginning on the ground floor, there would be a club. In the second story, they would sober up drunks and hand them currency for their back debts. The third deck would house an educational project, quite non-controversial, of course, in imagination. The Gleeman Center was to go up several stories more, but that would do for a start. And this would all take a lot of money, other people's money. Believe it or not, wealthy town folks bought the idea. There were, though, a few conservatives, dissenters among the alcoholics. They wrote the foundation, AA's headquarters in New York, wanting to know about this sort of streamlining. They understood that the elders, just to nail things down good, were about to apply to the foundation for a charter. These few were distributed and skeptical. Of course, there was a promoter in the deal, a super promoter. By his eloquence, he allayed all fears despite advice from the foundation that it could issue no charter and that ventures would mix an AA group with medication and education had come to sticky ends elsewhere. To make things safer, the promoter organized 3 corporations and became president of them all. Freshly painted, the new center shined. The warmth of it all spread through the town. Soon things began to hum. To ensure foolproof, continuous operation, 61 rules and regulations were adopted. But alas, this bright scene was not long in darkening. Confusion replaced serenity. It was found that some drunks yearned for education, but doubted if they were alcoholics. The personality defects of others could be cured maybe with a loan. Some were club-minded, but it was just a question of taking care of the lonely heart. Sometimes the swarming applicants would go for all 3 floors. Some would start at the top and come through to the bottom, becoming club members. Others started in the club, pinched a binge, were hospitalized, and graduated to the education on the 3rd floor. And this is very important. In 1954, the name of the Alcoholics Foundation, Inc. was changed to General Service Board of Alcoholics Anonymous, GSO. And the foundation office is now the General Service Office. It was a beehive of activity, all right, but unlike a beehive, it was confusion, compounded. An AA group as such simply cannot handle this sort of project. All too late, that was discovered. And then came the inevitable explosion, something like that day the boiler burst in Wembley's clapboard factory. A chill choke damp of fear and frustration fell over the group. And when that lifted, a wonderful thing had happened. The head promoter, wrote the foundation office. He said he wished he paid some attention to AA's experience. Then he did something else that was to become an AA classic. It all went on a little card about a golf score size, small little card. And the cover read, the Middleton Group number 1, rule number 62. Once the card was folded, a single pungent sentence leaped to the eye. Don't take yourself too damn seriously. Thus, it was that under Tradition 4, an AA group had exercised its right to be wrong. Moreover, it had performed a great service for Alcoholics Anonymous because it had been humbly willing to apply the lessons it learned. It had picked itself up with a laugh and gone on to better things. Even the chief architect standing in the ruins of his dreams could laugh at himself, and that is the very acme of humility. And for myself, as far as with my experience with the fourth tradition, each group can govern themselves. This is what I learned. They can govern themselves so long as it does not affect AA as a whole. In other words, they can't bring in liquor, okay, and they can't affiliate themselves. Like, there was a guy that came to our meeting, I'll say that, I have to wrap it up, and he said, oh, he wants to bring more parties and this and that to AA, and we looked at him like he was crazy. And it was in our meeting across the street from where I live. He went around the church where we had the meeting, touching things, moving things, and we would tell him to stop. There's a piano academy in there. He disturbed that man. He went around touching things. He went into the sanctuary. And then at that point, he was like, you know what? It'll be a good money maker for the church. We're not here to make money. We can't affiliate ourselves with any entity. On top of him being disrespectful in the meeting place and jeopardizing it. So we banned him from the meeting. Totally banned him from the meeting. I didn't even ask the pastor nothing. I just banned him from a meeting because he's a real, like they say, crackerjack. He was a real character, you know. And he's a person in the rooms where he's always trying to make a quick buck anyway. He's a hustler, you know. And he wasn't going to bring that to our meeting, you know. And there was a couple of other traditions he was breaking too. So each group can govern themselves. But as far as with this whole center that they wanted to create, AA is not there to give you a job. AA is not there to put you in school. AA is not there, you know, for you to make up with your family counseling. That's other entities. We're here about alcoholism. It says the primary purpose is to stay sober and help another sick and suffering alcoholics to achieve sobriety. You know, it says, I was reading something about the fourth tradition, and it says how group autonomy creates different environments. And I said that was really interesting to me. It says one AA member described what it was like when encountering groups that did things differently. He says that when he first came into AA, he learned how it went in his little group, and as he went to other groups in neighboring towns, he would think they don't do their meetings right simply because they weren't the same as the first group that he went to. And so it says today these little things that used to bother him make him realize that they are what makes all groups unique and different. He looks forward to the different meetings, because they're unique in their own right, as long as the guidelines, the program are followed, and the basic message is there for everyone. The autonomy of each group is one more example of why Alcoholics Anonymous works. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for your service tonight.
You're welcome.
It's Blue, Trish. Oh, nope, I'm sorry, it's me. And it's time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. Sometimes we hear things in meetings that can't be reconciled with what is in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And tonight's topic is You're in the Right Place. So Nancy's going to come in and tell us what the book actually has to say about that.
Alcoholic. If anyone who is showing inability to control his drinking can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman, our hats are off to him.
Thank you, Nancy. Please be sure to use your pens, highlighters, and rulers as we study. We use the study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group to stay focused and consistent. We read the material once, then dissect it through the question and answer format. After tonight's study is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation. This helps us understand and apply the content clearly.
After the study, we opened the meeting for comments and questions based on the pages just read. Our purpose here is to stay in the book and let the message do the work. If a share drifts into something better handled with a sponsor, we will kindly point you that way.
Bill W. wrote, "Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any AA group."
Before we begin the recap, we will need 5 or 6 volunteers to raise their virtual hands to be answer readers. And I would like to invite Donald in to read the recap. Welcome, Donald.
Good evening, everyone. Donald, aka former Gandalf the Red Pickle. I'm still Gandalf at heart, but I am a grateful recovered but not cured alcoholic. Starting on page 67, notice that the word fear. Notice that the word fear is bracketed alongside the difficulties with Mr. Brown, Mrs. Jones, the employer, and the wife. This short word somehow touches about every aspect of our life. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. It set in motion trains of circumstances that brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. But did we not ourselves set the ball rolling? Sometimes we think fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves, why did we have them? Or why we have them? Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve our fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so. For we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We are in the world to play the role He assigns, just to the extent that we do as we think He would have us, and humbly rely on Him. Does He enable us to match calamity with serenity? We never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength. The verdict of the ages is that faith means courage. All men of faith have courage. They trust their God. We never apologize for God. Instead, we let Him demonstrate through us what He can do. We ask Him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what He would have us be. At once, we commence to outgrow fear.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your service tonight, Donald. And now Jacqueline is going to come in and take us through tonight's study portion, starting on page 68, and take us into page 69. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Hello everyone, my name is Jacqueline M. and I'm a recovered alcoholic. Now about sex. Many of us need an overhauling there. But above all, we try to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get off of track. Here we find human opinions running to extreme, absurd extreme, perhaps. One set of voice cries that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity for pre-creation. Then we have the voice who cry for sex and more sex, who bewells the institution of marriage, who think that most of his trouble of the race are traceable to sex causes. They think we do not have enough of it, or that it isn't the right kind. They see the significance everywhere. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare, and the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy. We do not want to be the arbitrator of anyone's sex conduct. We all have sex problems. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. What can we do about them? We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where have we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom have we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. And this way, we try to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideas and help us to live up to them. We remembered always that our sex power was God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised or loathed. Whatever the idea turns out to be, we must be willing to grow towards it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in doing so. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, we ask God what He should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Thank you for your service tonight. And for our answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphone. We could use one more hand if someone is willing. And if not, we'll go with what we have. Linda, you need to unmute as well. And Trish will be coming in for some comments. And it's going to start off with a comment.
Yes. And now for the third part of our inventory. Sexual misconduct is another manifestation of our character defects.
Thank you so much. And first question is going to come to Nancy. And your question is, what do many of us need when it comes to our sex conduct? 2 sentences, please.
Now about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling there.
Thank you. Linda, above all, we tried to do what?
Above all, we try to be sensible on this question.
Thank you. And Jacqueline, it is easy to mess up. Is it easy to mess up here? I'm sorry.
It's so easy to get way off the track.
Thank you. And Stephanie, what kind of opinions do we encounter when it comes to this topic?
Here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes, perhaps.
Thank you. And Larry, one side of the debate looks at sex as what?
One set of voices cry that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity of procreation.
Thank you. And Nancy, coming back to you, what is the other side of the debate?
Then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes.
Thank you. And Linda, what do they think?
They think we do not have enough of it, or that it isn't the right kind.
Thank you. Jacqueline, what do they see?
They see its significance everywhere.
Thank you. And Stephanie, two-part question. A, one side would allow what and the other side would allow what?
One school would allow man no flavor for his fare, and the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet.
Thank you. And Larry, do we want to set these people straight?
We want to stay out of this controversy.
Boy, howdy. Nancy, do we want to be the judge of anyone's sex conduct?
No, we do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct.
Thank you. Linda, who has sex problems?
We all have sex problems.
Thank you. Jacqueline, what would we be if we didn't?
We'd hardly be humans if we didn't.
Stephanie, so now what is the question?
What can we do about them? We treat our sex inventory just as we did for our resentments and our fears. We examine it by using the 4-column approach, just as we have learned to do.
Larry, we begin this part of our inventory by doing what?
We reviewed our own conduct over the years past.
Thank you. Nancy, what are we looking for?
Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate?
Thank you. Linda, of whom do we make this list?
Whom had we hurt?
Thank you. Jacqueline, do we add those to our list who have been hurt by some more subtle actions on our part?
Did we unjustifiable arouse jealousy, suspicious, or bitterness?
Thank you. Steph, two-part question. A, whose wrongs do we examine? And B, what do we ask ourselves?
Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead?
And Larry, do we put all this on paper just as we did the manifestation of our other personality defects?
We got this all down on paper and looked at it.
Thank you. Nancy, by doing this, what are we really trying to do?
In this way, we try to shape a safe and sound ideal for our future sex life.
Thank you. And Linda, what tests do we apply?
I'm lost. I'm
What?
sorry, I looked up for a minute. I'm lost.
Okay, I'll move on to Jacqueline. Jacqueline, same question. What tests do we apply?
We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not?
Thank you.
The following is the first of 3 prayers we are given to help shape our sex conduct.
Stephanie, what do we ask God?
We ask God to mold our ideals and help us to live up to them.
Thank you. Larry, 3-part question. A, what must we remember about the source of our sex powers? B, they are therefore what? And C, they are not to be used how?
we remember always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and low.
Thank you. And Nancy, two-part question. A, are we determined to get our ideals regarding our sex conduct? And B, again, what is the key to success in this area of our lives?
Whatever our ideals turn out to be, we must be willing to go toward it.
It is not uncommon to write down what our ideals are.
Linda, two-part question. A, we must also be willing to do what? And B, provided that in doing so we do not do what?
We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in doing so.
Thank you. And Stephanie, how do we treat sex in our program?
In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem.
The following is the second prayer for our sex conduct.
Larry, what do we ask God?
In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter.
Thank you. And Nancy, you get the final question of the night. What is the promise of that prayer?
The right answer will come if we want it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes the study portion, folks. We are now open for questions, comments, observation, experience, spiritual experience. So the floor is yours based on what we just read tonight. Linda, come on in.
Hold on for a minute. I gotta move to another room to have privacy when I share. Hold on. Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic. I know that this whole chapter is not about, it's not just about the character defect of, like they say, the manifestations of our, I don't know how this lady put it, but I know that this whole chapter is not just about sex. It's about everything. It's about all of us. And for me, I just speak for myself. I'm not speaking for anyone else. But I've had promiscuity in my lifetime, but coming to AA, I learned to put a lid on it. And other things became more important in my life. And I got involved with someone who, they were, my therapist told me they were a person that had two faces, and they didn't really know themselves, you know. And the situation was that, yeah, they cheated on me, but it was much more than that. It was a lot more than that. And we treat this the way we treat any other defect. We do, you know, and it's about honesty. And I remember I had met one man, and he told me, he said, you know, I need to be honest with you. He said, I'll see you when I see you, you know, we'll get together, whatever. He said, but I cannot get into a committed relationship because that's not what I'm looking for. And I was, you know, when he told me that, it did not upset me. It did not hurt me. I was so glad this man was honest with me. He was honest with me. And you know, when you get into a relationship with someone, that's all that you ask for is honesty. You know, we are who we are, and we're going to do what we're going to do, and we have our preferences. But most of all, we have a responsibility to be honest to that person. We can't say, no, I'm not like that, and then turn around and be like that. You know, because it's as my sponsor tells me, you look at a person's actions, never mind their words. Look at their actions. You know, and this person was not into steps. They avoided the steps. And for me, I had to look at my character defect of Why are you looking for someone to love you that can't love themselves? There's just too much going on with this person. And as my sponsor pointed out, you have a right to protect your health and your future by not being with this person. Because if you be with this person, they're putting you at risk because they're too promiscuous. They're too reckless. That first step, reckless. They were just too reckless. And then would lie and say, no, I'm not. You know, and there was other things that went on. I'm not going to get all into it, but there was a lot other things that went on. And for me, the most important part is just being honest. Being honest with yourself. We have a fourth step. We have a fifth step. We have a sixth step. Taking a look at ourselves and our character defects. And I was told by my sponsor and people in the rooms, if you have something that you are so unmanageable and reckless about, you better be careful because it will take you back out and make you drink. It will. Any addiction that you have, whether it's a shopaholic, some people just love, as soon as they get money, they love to spend it. Gamblers, you know, sex anonymous, you know, gossip anonymous, whatever it is, it will take you back out to a drink. These defects of characters, it will take you back out to a drink. And I never wish anyone to go back out and drink. I would never wish anyone. But I didn't understand a lot of things, and I was old boo-hoo and self-pity. And the therapist I had, she said, we're going to sit down and talk about you. We ain't talking about him. She said, because I don't know him, but we're going to talk about you. And she was a person that knew about the 12 steps. So she said, you get honest. She said, you get honest. And you look at yourself and you ask yourself, why are you with this person? You know, sometimes when we're needy, you know, we have this low self-esteem, and we just want to be loved, and we want to be needed, and all this nonsense. And that was not the person. That was not the person. That person was like, it's like a drug. I'll get this hit, and I'll get the next one, and I'll keep going. That's how he felt with women. They were just objects, you know. And you can't play with people's feelings because they can fall in love, and that's what I did. You can't play with people's feelings. You know, we have steps to teach us to be honest. To be honest. And to look at people as human beings. You know, I can't continue my life, you know, like they say, Peter Pan, don't want to grow up. I have to grow up. Sooner or later, I have to grow up and I have to face myself and my defects and I have to look at myself. I like what it said about the lower form, the lower nature, you know. And there's other things besides that. You can read a book, you can go back to school, you can this, you can that. That doesn't have to be the whole of your conversation. You know, and that's what this person was. That's where their level and their mind was. And, you know, yeah, I had you know, years later I forgave them, but then I understood. Some of us are still in our addictions. We're still holding on to a lot of these character defects, and it's dangerous. It is dangerous because it will take us back, you know, to a drink. You know, we always have to talk about things in relation to alcohol. And I'm so glad that they have this in there because it sums it up and it straightens it out. We will deal with that the same way we deal with other character defects. It is no different. You know, it's a subject we don't want to talk about. We want to hush. We want to look the other way, this, that, the other. But, you know, I had a sponsor, and I had to let her know, you're being very reckless in your sex life. I said, I can't tell you what to do. I said, but I will give you a suggestion, and you're better off. You can do what you want to do, but you're better off. And you will see the repercussions, and you will see the consequences. I said, it comes to a point in your life, as a woman, you need to love yourself and respect yourself and value yourself. You're not a doorknob. Everyone doesn't get a turn. You're not the Grand Central Station. You know, you want to be a woman that can look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a woman of honor. You know, what is it? What did the lady say? I'm a woman of honor, respect, and dignity. I said, you want to be that person. I said, if you don't, keep doing what you're doing. And I left her alone with that, you know, and I told my daughters that. You know, I said, I'm a kind of person, if I'm not with anyone, I'm not with anyone. If I am, let's settle down. Let's move on to bigger and better things. And all my children have settled down. because they understand about and I guess they understand that about the recklessness because of me being in AA, I guess, but I like this chapter because it sums it up, and it's really good to read this when you have a newcomer, whoever you sponsor them or not, and they're having that trouble, and you can tell them, no, you don't have to feel, just bewildered, and ashamed or guilty, because guess what? We're going to deal with this the same way we deal with our other character defects. Thank you for letting me share. I'm sorry I went over.
Thank you, Linda. Trish.
Hey everybody, I'm Trish, I'm an alcoholic. And I love how the very first sentence is now about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling here, or there. Which tells me right off the bat, I'm not the only one who may be having a problem here, or having a difficulty here. And then it talks about a little bit of stuff, and then it says we don't want to be the arbitrator of anyone's sex conduct. It's not up to me to tell you what's right or wrong for you. I can only determine what's right and wrong for me. And what do I do about it? We all have problems. What do we do about it? And it lists us 2, 3, 4, 6 or 7 questions. And I've looked at these questions over my sex conduct, over my history with each person, all on paper, because that's what I've learned to do when I'm making an inventory. I reviewed my conduct over the years. Where was I selfish? Where was I dishonest and inconsiderate? Who did I hurt? And there were cases where they hurt me. There were cases where I hurt them, and I had to look at that and not just say, yeah, but look at what they did. Didn't matter what they did. What did I do? Did I unjustly arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? I sure did. And where was I at fault, and what should I have done? And if I honestly look at these questions individually, selfishness, dishonest, inconsiderate, jealousy, suspicion, bitterness, and all treat them as a different column or a different question on each person, I get a really good view of what my sex conduct was. When I did, when I didn't, when I withheld, and all of that. And you guys don't need specifics, and this isn't the place to go into specifics. But then I also have to look at where was I at fault and what should I have done instead. I can't go back and change time and say never gotten involved with them, because I can't change time. I can't go back in time. But I can look at what I should have done, and that can help me lead into a possible amends with that person if I know where they are. But it can also give me some direction on what to do in the future. I don't want to do that, I want to do this. And the book says we got it all down on paper and looked at it. And if I've got all those questions answered on paper and I'm looking at each one, it's hard to say, no, I didn't do that, because it's right there in black and white. And I love how at that point, I felt like I was beating myself up, but I really wasn't. I was just being honest in that sex inventory, in those questions I was asking myself. It says, what do I do next? I shape that sane and sound ideal for a future sex life. What do I want in the future? And if somebody comes into my life and I have this ideal, I'll already know, is this a match? Does this person fit what I'm looking for in my life? Does this person fit where I want to go in my life? And then I have to look at that ideal and ask myself, is what I want selfish or not? I can be selfish. I'm absolutely positive I can be selfish. I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and with no thought or regard to what you want. But I have to look at what my sane and sound ideal is, and then subject each relation to that. Is it selfish or not? Are my ideas selfish? Are they even possible? Is it possible for what I'm looking for my ideal? That person may not be out there. That's okay. but I know what it is I'm looking for. And then I ask God to mold those ideals and to help me to live up to them, not the other person. Ask me to live up to them. Because if I have an ideal and I have a level that I'm going to expect somebody else to act, I have to be willing to act that same way. And I have to have God in this entire process. I can't just answer all these questions without asking God to show me what it is I'm supposed to be seeing, because then I'm only going to be looking at what I want to see. I have to ask God before I write it down, while I'm writing it down, and while I'm reflecting on what is that ideal. God, help me to mold my ideals so that I can be this person. And then at the end, we ask God what we should do on each specific matter. The right answer will come. That's a promise. The right answer will come if I want it. If I ask God, if I follow the direction. But if I don't do the work, if I don't have that ideal, how do I know what specific matter I'm asking God about? I've got to answer these questions first. Find out where I was. And then by setting up that ideal, I'll know where I want to be or who I want to be. And is that even possible for me to reach? That's a question I've got to ask God. And as long as I'm taking God into the process and keeping God in the center of the process, that ideal will come, and it will be an achievable ideal for me and whoever that other person is. And it's something that we'd be able to work through, me and God, not me and this other person. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Larry, time to wake up.
I'm not asleep. This it's not a real easy subject for me to talk about. I don't like talking about it. Basically because I was very promiscuous in my first marriage, and for years I convinced myself that I didn't hurt anybody because she didn't know about it. I said it's okay, and when she hurt me when she had her affair and divorced me, it was a whole different thing. And so, but still, for all those years, I convinced myself that I never hurt her. She was the one that hurt me because she didn't know about anything I did. And she didn't. She never knew about it. And it took till I got my last sponsor. I tried that on him, and it didn't fly. it didn't fly at all. He said, I don't care if she knew about it or not. Was it selfish? Was it self-centered? And he just would not let me get away with hiding behind she didn't know about it. I had put her in this corner that I wasn't going to have to make amends to her for things because it would hurt her too much. And she said, you put it over there and God will let you know when you need to make amends. And have a little separate category. God will bring that to light when you need to make amends. And sure enough, it did happen. God worked it where I had to reveal. I did not tell her detail information, everything I did. to admit to her that she was not the one that tore our marriage vows apart, that I was the one that destroyed our marriage vows. I had to admit to her that so that she could get that weight off of her, because she was about to commit suicide, thinking she destroyed our family. That's how God worked it out, and I had to admit it. I had to step up and see. Sex, it matters not what people know. It matters what you did, not what they think you did or what they know you did. You have to admit somehow. You have to decide and take care of your side of the street somehow, whether or not it's to God and your sponsor or whatever. And I tried to hide behind, I never hurt anybody. And it doesn't fly. I had to, thank goodness that I had a sponsor that cared and didn't let me get away with the BS that I had tried to hide behind for so long. And other things about that, I had, things I did I thought was terrible. And it matters not what, I say terrible because there's not classifications in this. That's what this chapter's telling. Some's pepper and some salt, some's flavor, and some whatever. You don't put classification, but there are things that I had never thought of, in my entire life. And I sponsored people, and I've had to deal with things that I couldn't believe, but I couldn't judge. I just had to accept, and I had to work through, and I had to do the same thing my sponsor did. I had to just say, well, listen, it doesn't matter anything, it's just, was it selfish? What was it self-centered? And I had to ask the questions that this chapter had, and we had to work through it that way, not judgmental, not anything else. I just had to bring it down to the way the chapter reads, and they had to be honest to themselves, and from there clean up their own streets. That's all I got.
Thank you, Larry. The floor is open, folks. We've got about 25 minutes. One of those topics that makes everyone uncomfortable. Jacqueline, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Jacqueline. I'm a recovered alcoholic. And, about sex, and I guess sex is like with any of our character defects was God-given. It's when we don't use it rightly or out of control, that's when they become character defects. That's for me, and that's when they begin to cause a lot of trouble in my life. And here it says, we have to remember we all, not some of us, we all have sex problems. And if we didn't, we would not be human beings. You know, when that instinct aroused in me, I guess I was around the age of maybe 14, 15, or 16, you know, and that instinct sometimes was just like the driving force, you know, in me, you know, as they say, you know, a tornado just ruined through people's lives, you know, especially when I couldn't get my way, you know. And if I even had an idea that a partner of mine was doing anything, I would say, just like any other instincts, I'll fix him. I'll show him. You know, even in the sex area. And all at the same time, who was I hurting? I was hurting myself. And then, you know, it ended up I was hurting not just myself, but I was hurting the family in general. You know, so yeah, I had to really get down to cause and conditions when I took my inventory when it came to the sex life. It didn't matter if I thought that my significant other at the time was cheating, because I knew he was cheating. You know, I think a woman and a man know when the other person is cheating. You know, and what I did, you know, like I said, I did a lot of harm. You know, I was selfish. I was dishonest, and a lot of my sexual encounters to just get what I wanted, you know. So, you know, thank you, God. I have worked on myself since being here in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. And I like this part right there on page 69. It says, and then I should smart. It says, you know, I have, and I personalized my big book. I have to remember always that my sex power was God-given and therefore good. It was neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be desired or loathed. You know, and I had to remember that. You know, even today, you know, in my, you know, marriage, you know, this is, I can say this is my first relationship that I have been very faithful in, you know. Now my thinking, you know, I may not have acted, but my thinking is just as bad, you know, because they say, you know, they say a man is what he thinketh, and you know, and if you think something long enough, you do it, you know, and you know, even with my inventory, you know, in my marriage, I had to write about that, you know, and I remember when I met my husband, I thought something was wrong with me, you know, because I was so used to as I heard someone sharing here, a doorknob, you know, and but you know, this guy treated me like, you know, a woman. You know, he was a gentleman, and I wasn't used to that. you know. So, you know, it's just a work in progress, you know. And I guess, you know, in AA it is a touchy subject, but we still have to write that inventory. You know, just like we had to write about our resentments and our fears. You know, it's not to be used lightly or selfishly. You know, yeah. So I'm glad today I have that awareness. I'm glad today that, you know, it don't always necessarily have to be about sex. You know, when you get a certain age, Mother Nature and Mother and Father Time take care of all of that stuff. You know, it's a matter of, you know, forming a relationship. You know, can you nurture that person? You know, so you know, so I have to keep coming back. You know, and you know, sometimes, you know, today I could be very selfish. You know, in that area. You know, but then too, you know, it's not all about me. Yeah, so I'll keep coming back. And thank you for this topic.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Shayna, welcome.
Let me see if I can switch this. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, well, wonderful. Okay. Shayna, recovered alcoholic. Thanks for this meeting. And listening to the step inventory portion of the book, I recall when I first did the 4-step inventory, I just merely looked at sex inventory alone. What I didn't recognize at first was that it's a look at my relationship. It wasn't
Thanks, Shayna. Anybody else care to share? Everybody's like, hell no, not that. I'll go ahead and come in. Hi, family. My name's Jamie. Very grateful, recovered alcoholic. And when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous and first covered this subject in the book and then my 4-step inventory, one of the things that I have said for many years, some of you might remember the song, I forget who it was, Pat Benatar or one of those groups from back in the late 80s and 90s. Stop using sex as a weapon is something that I would always say. Because we use it. Sex has incredible power. We use it to control and manipulate and dominate. And if you give me what I want, I'll do this for you. And if you don't, then I'm going to shut you off, and so on and so forth. And so we use it in a very sick, unhealthy way. But this inventory has nothing to do with the act of sex itself. This inventory is about how we interact in our relationships with significant others. It doesn't have to do with what you like in the bedroom or what you don't like in the bedroom. It has to do with how we treat one another in every aspect of our lives. So, when I was very young, very, very young, and married, and we had a baby, and there was this really cute girl who had a smile that could light up a room, and I told my wife I didn't know how I felt. That was the beginning of the end. Instead of finding a good, healthy way to deal with those feelings, and nothing ever happened between this woman and I, but I did do great damage to my marriage and to my wife. And when I found her, when I found my daughter about 15 years ago, my ex-wife, who I hadn't talked to in 32 years, was the first point of contact. And she remembered that girl. And she carried that pain for over 32 years because of something that I did. I was young, stupid, practicing my disease, all of that. So I love these 9 specific questions that we are directed to ask ourselves. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Ooh, where were we at fault? And question 9, which is probably one of the most important questions, what should we have done instead? And the answer should never be, well, I shouldn't have got involved in the first place, because that's what we always say. We did get involved. We can't change the past. What it is now is its experience. So it's all vitally, vitally important to talk about. You know, because of this inventory, because of me doing this inventory, I was able to make amends with a ex-fiance from 40 plus years ago. And we once again became best friends, not romantically involved or any of that, but became best friends. And because of the faith that I have developed in the relationship that I have developed with God through this program, what it did was it encouraged her to seek her own faith. And the healing that took place between the two of us was absolutely amazing. And she found God. For her, she found a relationship with Jesus. And in early November, just before my sponsor passed away, the good Lord took this woman home. And I was so grateful that there was no unfinished business, that there was complete love and forgiveness between the two of us. But it never could have gotten to that point without me doing this work. You know, some of us grow up in very sick situations and very sick homes, and a lot of things happen to us that should never happen, and we get involved in other relationships with other people, and things happen to us that shouldn't be happening, and our innocence is lost, and it's taken from us oftentimes, and those are painful part of all of this inventory as well. Because guess what, ladies? That stuff happens to men too. It happens to little boys, but it's something that I had to take a look at in my own life in doing this inventory, because some of those things were the things that molded my ideas that I took through my life for decades. And that's an extremely painful way to live. The truth, sometimes when we uncover it, might be extremely painful, but the truth will never hurt us. The truth truly will set us free. And by going through the painstaking process of going through this, and recognizing the difficulties that we have had, then we can live in the spiritual solution. I ask God all the time, what's my ideal sex relationship? God says, abstinence, you idiot. And I'm okay with that. You know, because there is more to being involved in a relationship that is deep and meaningful than what's going on in the bedroom. Is that part of it? Yeah, absolutely. But there is no way that I ever want to cause harm to another human being today in my life the way that I did in the past. But you know, the other thing about all of this, folks, is not only do we learn how to make things right and to forgive others, but hopefully, upon close examination of what our own behavior has been, we learn to forgive ourselves as well. It does not absolve us of the things that we did wrong. It does not absolve us of the harms that we have done. It just gives us a pathway to live in peace with it. I know some of the things that have happened throughout my life that never should have happened, not of my own doing. Because I have gone through this work and done it, God puts people in my life, men and women both, who have struggled with those same types of issues, and I get to help them work through the other side so that they can heal from what's happened in their lives. Because, let's face it, there's people that will take themselves out of this world because of the deep emotional pain that they have no tools and coping skills to deal with. And as recovered alcoholics, or members of Alcoholics Anonymous, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help others find their God and find their truth so that they can make things right in their life. It's not my place to tell somebody else's story. It's only my place to tell my story. It's not my place to use somebody else as an example. Painful as it might be to admit in front of a group of people, it's my place to use my own life as an example. And we live in such a predatory world that everybody lives in that fear today. That everybody's going to be a predator. That just isn't the truth. We are just people who have been very spiritually sick, who are trying to find a way to make things right in our life. So back to that question, what should I have done instead? Here's what I should have done instead. I should have been more kind, loving, compassionate, and understanding to the needs of my partner in that relationship. I should have been honorable and never shared those thoughts that I had, but instead talked to those thoughts with someone who could give me spiritual guidance and direct me to ask God to help me. That's what I should have done. But there again, now it's experience. I truly, truly hope that my first wife will one day be free of the pain. To the best of my ability, I have done what I can to make my amends. Whether or not she accepts it is entirely up to her. That is between her and God. But as far as God goes, I have cleaned my slate with her to the best of my ability and cleaned my slate with God. This inventory, again, is about relationships. And where do we get those first impressions? We get them from mom and dad and aunts and uncles and grandma and grandpa. Well, let's face it, we've had some very bad, sick examples. You know, and we get intimately involved with someone and we're like, I love you! And we don't even know what love truly is. So yeah, what's the ideal? I have no idea what God has for the plan for the future, but I know right where He has me at the moment, and I'm really, really good with that. Thanks. Anybody else before we close out? Alrighty then.
From page 164 in our book. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you, folks, and we got a real special way of closing out here at Primary Purpose. Since we can't circle up and hold hands like we do in a bricks and mortar meeting, we virtually hold hands with one another. And after a moment of silence for those who are sick and suffering, please join me in the Lord's Prayer. So here's your moment. Thank you. Who will take us from shame to grace if we let him? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in the heavens. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Great meeting.
Thank-
Everyone have a good week.
Thanks for staying up with us.